In everybody, Patriots post-game show. John Zannis, Evan Lazar. Patriots with a snoozer. An easy one, Evan.
An easy one. And this game felt like another time, another example of two things. One, nobody should ever be selling themselves on Sam Darnold as their franchise quarterback. And two, you see Bill Belichick defensively starting to figure out his personnel and starting to figure out what the best way to deploy his defense is this year versus what maybe it would have been over the last couple of years. They play more man coverage in the back end for years here in New England. That's been the MO, but now they don't have Stephon Gilmore. They don't have the man coverage talent that maybe they had once before. So playing more zone and adjusting to your personnel defensively, and we're starting to see that take off.
Yeah, raise your hand if you wanted to take a flyer on Sam Darnold this offseason. I did. I you know why? I'm a sucker for the redraft, type of thing. I'm a sucker for the guy drafted with a high pedigree went to the worst possible situation,
right,
and bring him in somewhere where there's some competent people. And Buffalo lost. Unreal. Bring him in somewhere in a good learning environment and watch them take off. I wanted to take that flyer on Darnold if it was possible.
Sure.
Nope. This guy won't have a job next year. This is a bad quarterback. So this is again one of those questions for the Patriots trying to assess who are they, and it's hard again because Carolina might have looked like one thing earlier in the year and what they look like now is totally different. So it's again, did they do anything here? Did they accomplish anything? Is this defensive, is what they did here defensively matter? Does it hold up against a good team? Because this is a really bad offense. I mean, they had about 60 yards of total offense in the first half. And honestly, you kind of felt at first, I thought I was really frustrated with the Patriots. They were playing so conservatively that I thought they were leaving it open at 14-6 there. It felt like the Patriots were just playing too conservatively, really worried about that pass rush, possibly turning the ball over, their offensive line not holding up, Mac not looking great. I thought that was going to open the door potentially for, Carolina to pop up a couple of plays. It turns out not. It turns out conservative was the right game plan because Carolina, I think, could have played 8 quarters here and not scored more than 9-12 points. So again, how much are you giving the Pats defense? How much are you giving the bad offense?
I give the Patriots defense a lot of credit because this Bill Belichick adaptation, if you want to call it that, to play more zone coverage in the back end and not put guys. Look, you don't have Gilmore anymore. Jonathan Jones is on injured reserve. He's out for the year. Jason McCourty's in Miami. J.C. Jackson's your best cornerback. He can be inconsistent at times as kind of a gambler in man coverage as well. So you don't have the cover talent in the back end to sit and cover one man-to-man for 4 quarters like the Patriots have been doing when Gilmore was here as their number 1 corner. So what have they done? They've adjusted, and they've found a foundation now, a way to be able to play good defense and take away big plays in the passing game by playing more zone coverage, especially on first and second down. They're taking all those shot plays away, forcing the quarterback to check the football down and just coming up and rallying and making those tackles. And then you also look at the production that they're getting out of their defensive line and out of that pass rush. And if you're going to play zone coverage in the back end and you're not going to play zone blitz, which the Patriots they're not really blitzing out of the zone. They're playing mostly straight up zone coverage or zone match coverage in the back end. And if you're going to do that, then you have to generate pressure with your front 4. You have to be able to get home with 4-man rushes. And because of Matt Judon, because of Christian Barmore, obviously, the Patriots have been able to develop a pass rush defensively as well with those 4-man rushes with 7 guys playing in the back end in zone, and they pass those things off in the middle of the field or they match it vertically up the field in zone match, and they're able to take away big plays this way. And they're in a lot of ways, I would say they're kind of hiding some of their guys in the secondary a little bit more by doing it this way because it's a lot of disguise. It's a lot of post-snap decision-making for the opposing quarterback, which is why Sam Darnold struggled so much today because he's not the type of guy that is very good at that, right? If you start spinning the dial on Sam Darnold, as we know, he gets confused, he gets flustered, and he doesn't know where to go with the football. So they have a bunch of guys in this secondary, from Jalen Mills to Miles Bryant to Devin McCourty to Adrian Phillips to Kyle Duggar, that maybe aren't the best man-to-man coverage players, but they're very, very versatile players, and they can play multiple different roles in zone. They can play low, they can play high, they can play outside, they can play inside, and you're able to move it around and kind of muddy it up, muddy that picture for the quarterback. And then you also get JC Jackson back there, who's one of the better ball hawks in the NFL. So it also helps JC that he gets to look at the quarterback a lot more and go hunting for those interceptions in zone. So they're getting a lot more production out of this defense and taking away big plays by playing zone in the back end, getting that 4-man rush with Barmore and Judon going, and it's working. So you stack that together, whether it's against Aaron Rodgers or it's against Sam Darnold, you start building this foundation. You get better and better and better at the game plan or at the schemes that they're running, and then you can start to see this defense really take off.
Yeah. And so, again, that's what you've got. You've strung together some wins now, so 5-4. You're in the game here right now as far as this team goes. Offensively, again, kind of, mixed bag. You do want to, I liked seeing some of what we saw there, and certainly the guys on the right side were clearing out some holes. We got some good stuff in the run game. Yeah. They had 100 yards at the half, and honestly, I think could have kept pounding it if they wanted to there throughout. Production from all three backs, which was crazy, because Bolden looks like a new man. He just looks like he's moving better than he was earlier in the season. A little bit more burst. He obviously made some big plays there, but you got something out of Stevenson, a pretty good three-headed attack. We're going to talk about two of them getting dinged up, which isn't great, so we'll see about that. But again, it's just, that offensive line not holding up and immediately going away from exposing Mac Jones to anything made them uber conservative again. So I don't mean to nitpick on the bad stuff, but again, you want to continue to see that progress from Mac in the passing offense, and there's nothing there. Almost nothing to wide receivers today at all. Very little involvement. Very little vertical action in the passing game. From Mac and the Patriots, which is sustainable in a game like this. But again, you're going to need to see something here. And we definitely didn't see it today. It felt like a little bit of a step back.
Yeah. And I'm not usually one that's so gung ho about what I'm about to say, but in a way, Bill Belichick is getting what he wanted and what he envisioned coming into the season. They did not envision Mac Jones to carry the Patriots in his rookie season. They did not think that the game was going to be on his shoulders and he was going to carry the team on his back this early on in his career. They wanted to play good defense. They wanted to run the ball, and they wanted to sprinkle in the pass and throw the ball effectively on third down and in the red area to score points. But most importantly, they were going to be a team that won with complementary football, that won with pretty much everything around the rookie quarterback, propping up Mac Jones. And over the last 2 weeks, I would certainly say that we have seen that formula more so than the Mac is putting the team on his back and throwing for 300 yards formula. So in a way, is it sustainable against good teams or better teams, I should say? That remains to be seen, I suppose. But I do think that you're going to get better performances out of Mac Jones than what he's had over the last couple of weeks. And if the defense and the special teams and the running game and some of the other elements of this team can carry him through some of these struggles in his rookie season, then the Patriots are obviously going to win a lot more football games that way, because he was not going to come in as a rookie and play 17 perfect games, right? It just wasn't going to happen. So the fact that he's able to have some of these games where he's not as sharp as others and the Patriots are still able to win the football game with other parts of their team is really what the Patriots were hoping for coming into the year. And the concern that I had out of Mac today were the two turnovers. The first one, it looked like he had Brandon Bolden open over the middle against the blitz and didn't get the football out right away. And that was why Brian Burns was able to finally get in and get that strip sack. This interception by Stephon Gilmore is a great play by Gilmore, but there's no way you should throw that football, right?
No.
It's just a bad read and a bad
Yeah.
decision because Gilmore beat him to the
He
spot.
took the route away from him completely. It was never
Right.
there. Yeah.
It was never there. You got to just eat that one or not throw it there and move on. So you have the 2 turnovers. Those were killer. And I think the one thing that Bill Belichick will continue to mention with the passing game as a whole is consistency, because you do see flashes of good moments from this passing attack. You do see some downfield presence, like on the wheel route to Brandon Bolden, and Hunter Henry gets involved with a touchdown and a key 3rd down conversion, and they find Ramondre Stevenson coming out of the backfield for 41 yards. So some of the flashes in the passing game are there, but the consistency as a whole is not there. Maybe that volatility has something to do with the fact that it is a rookie quarterback that's pulling the trigger.
Yeah, and you had Wynn obviously there, kind of looked like he missed a block assignment. I couldn't tell if he thought Henry was supposed to block outside and he just didn't turn until late. I'm not really sure what happened there, but certainly some inconsistency from him. You really want to see him button it up, because it did feel like they were last couple of games moving in the right direction with that O-line combo. And this felt again like another step back, which the trickle down effect off of that is so profound in terms of the impact it has on the offense that it really does kind of change the entire philosophy and what it is that what they want to do. And it is amazing how skittish the Patriots get once they feel like it's not there for them. They really just
went right back into the bunker. 3rd and
right
12,
back in
handoffs,
draw play to Bolden. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was that it was actually that exact play. And then I believe it was a pick 6 on the final on that next drive,
right?
With Carolina driving. But again, that was the play to me, that 3rd and 12 draw to Brandon Bolden, where it's like, guys, what are you doing? You're opening the door for them to come back. And Carolina did, in fact, drive it down the field and was in a position to score. But Darnold obviously gives one up there, and JC, not Justin Bethel, as you might have heard on the game broadcast.
Not the best game broadcast today from CBS.
No.
It was rough.
It looked like they did about 6 minutes of homework on this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Between the Justin Bethel's JC Jackson and him saying that Jacoby Myers was Mac Jones's go-to target in the red zone, we lost a little bit there.
Archuleta also has a knack for saying Judon instead of Judon. And I don't know, maybe we all have it wrong, but I haven't heard Judon.
No.
Either. So
we should talk about some of the positives with the offense with the running backs, though, right? Because they do run for a season high was 150.
No doubt about it. There were good things there. You want to see that they can impose their will, and I actually liked the pivot when they saw that the stuff wasn't going well, and they're like, "Screw it, we're just going to hit you in the mouth." And again, the Panthers have guys on the edge who can kind of get pressure, but they're a little bit lighter, so it does make sense that you should take advantage of that, and they did.
Yeah, it was great to see Josh McDaniels adjust a little bit here on the fly. And also, I thought he called a really good game to mitigate the speed of the Panthers defensively. Instead of 7-step drops with Mac in the pocket, trying to go through a full field progression with Burns and Reddick and these guys all coming at him, they were getting the ball out of his hands quickly. They were testing them out on the perimeter in the run game, because those edges, as good as they are as pass rushers, Burns, Reddick, these guys are a little bit undersized, right? They're not Matt Judons. They're not 265-pound edge rushers. So these guys are a little bit smaller and a little bit more speed, finesse type of guys. So they ran the football right at him on those toss plays. They actually got some productive toss plays, and I thought that opened up some of the runs on the inside, because now you're starting to talk about balance. So in the run game, you're thinking about the toss, or you're thinking about the outside run. Maybe that opens up some of those inside runs as well. So you see some of the things that Josh McDaniels did in this game, calling the game to protect the Patriots essentially from that pass rush. And I think once they saw the strip sack, that was it, right? At that point, they said, okay, we need to just make sure that doesn't keep happening all game and this pass rush doesn't completely take this thing over, because especially with the way that Sam Darnold was playing on the other side, it was pretty easy to see that if the Patriots didn't beat themselves in this game, that they were going to win this game pretty easily against the Panthers today. And the only thing that was holding them back from blowing them out in the first half was the turnover.
Bad penalties too.
Right.
I mean, so many procedural penalties, and again, the first half offensively started so bad with that stuff. I think it
Yeah.
was, a couple of false starts and just stuff that they've got to clean up. I don't get what's happening here with these miscommunications, the too many men, the procedural penalties, just a lot of stuff that you just aren't used to with these guys. It's frustrating.
They cleaned some of the penalties up as the game wore on.
They did, but they started awful.
Yeah, they had 4 penalties in the first 10 minutes of the game, and they only had 6 for the entire game. So they only got called for 2 flags as the game wore on in the quarters 2 through 4, if you want to put it that way. So they were able to clean some of that up. I think the one thing that you see with Isaiah Wynn, because I know there's a lot of critiquing of Isaiah Wynn's game out there right now, and Brian Burns' strip sack and his role in Brian Burns' strip sack. And I think when you look at that what Wynn struggles with at times is when the defense is bringing pressure from the second level and they're walking guys up over the left side of the line. He has a difficult time processing who am I blocking and who am I supposed to block, right? Because you're taught to block inside out. So if they're going to blitz somebody over you from the inside, you got to block down and take the inside threat and force the guy to go around the arc and run all the way around the edge to get to the quarterback. The way that Hunter Henry engaged in that block, it looked to me like Wynn thought that Hunter Henry was staying in.
It looked for sure because he was very late to even turn to see it. And he was locked into that, position there.
It just looked like they had something going on with the pressure on the inside. Wynn's eyes started inside at the linebacker level to make sure that the blitzer wasn't coming from the second level. I think he thought that Hunter Henry had it with Brian Burns, or maybe he thought that Hunter Henry was going to hold that block a little bit longer and he was going to have more time to recover to Burns. But Burns is so fast and explosive that with Burns, you kind of have to adjust a little bit, right? Your internal clock has to go a little bit faster. So look, I think this offensive line has come a really long way since the beginning of the year. I think Isaiah Wynn still remains somebody that is a little bit of a wild card every single week and every single play. You just don't really know if he's going to be the first round pick Isaiah Wynn that we've seen and flashes and droves really when he was healthy over the last couple of years, or if he's going to be the guy that's been in a rut so far this season for the most part. So it's as a passing game as a whole, they just need to be more consistent because like I said, they do hit on some plays, right? They do hit on plays down the field. They're pretty good on third down today. Looking at it early, especially, they end up 6 for 14, but it felt better at the beginning parts of the game when it was really a game. 2 for 3 in red zone trips. Hunter Henry catches a touchdown pass, so that they were a little bit more effective in situational football, I would say. Third down, red area. When Mac found a matchup or had a matchup, he was able to get the football there. But then you just have these grenades, right? These big mistakes with fumbles or interceptions or penalties or blown blocks and blown assignments. And that's when you start to see that offense go backwards a little bit more than what you would like to.
Yeah, no doubt. Nelson Aguilar did play today, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that surprised that they didn't try to push it down the field to the receivers just because of the pass rush. They were really concerned about that. Aguilar didn't even have a target in this game.
Not a target, nothing. You had 4 to Jacoby Myers, and Gilmore was in coverage on a couple. One ends in a pick. He has 1 completion for 8 yards, and then Kendrick Bourne had 3 for 34. He's the only one who flashed. Outside of that, you had Henry with 2 receptions, Jonnu with 1 for 4, and that's it, my friends. The rest went to backs. Stevenson, Bolden. This was 12 completions today. This was a really
run the
day.
Football, play good defense, and get out of there with a victory. That's what today was about, and that's what they were able to do. And look, like I said earlier, sometimes you got to just stack some of these wins together like this, right? Not every game's going to be 50-point outbursts for the offense. Not every game's going to be perfect when you have a rookie quarterback in the passing game. But if you can continue to beat teams that you should beat, this Carolina team is not in a good place right now. Right? They're going in the wrong direction. So if you can keep beating these teams by just playing all three phases, doing enough, or the defense playing dominant like it did today, and that will get you through the season, and you start to talk and flirt with
Yeah, look, it's
double-digit wins.
you're not wrong. There's no question about it. It can get you by, and it can win you some games, and you can
Yeah.
hover around 500 and beat teams that that have flaws that you're supposed to beat. It's just simply a matter of ceiling for this season. What is it? Can this offensive passing game reach another level?
Yeah.
Where it always comes down to, look, we asked the same question with Cam last year. If they're trailing, can they open it up and get back in a game?
Right.
And that's kind of what it comes down to, is you can manage a game like this, absolutely. And I think they played it the right way. But can you put up the points when you need to? And again, it's 9 games. It's you're more than halfway through the season. I don't know yet. I don't know if we should be optimistic either. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know yet either, because we have seen them throw the ball well. I thought against Dallas they threw it well. Obviously against the Jets they threw it well. And you see these flashes and you see these moments, and Mac has certainly on the whole been really good, especially when you curve it for a rookie quarterback, right?
Right.
It's been very good. But I think what you worry about with this offense is they just don't, it doesn't feel like the coaching staff fully trusts the entire operation in the passing game to really, I wouldn't necessarily say it's not that they're opening it up. I think that's kind of an oversimplification, but more so just they played today not to lose, and they were able to beat Carolina because the defense played extremely well, and the Panthers are not a very good football team, and Sam Darnold's not a very good quarterback. But when you're punting the ball on 4th and 1s, and you're handing it off to Brandon Bolden on 3rd and 12, and you're doing these things that playing field position and all this kind of stuff, right? That's playing, in my mind, a very conservative brand of football. And if they really felt like we can throw the football here and stomp on the throat, they would do it. But I don't think that they have that full confidence yet. Now, I think the other end of that, right? People are going to come back at me and say, well, if you're up 24-6, then what are you chancing it, right? What's the point? So I get that too, but I don't know. We're all still waiting to see this offense, except against the Jets, right? We're all still waiting to see this passing offense truly play a complete game, right? Where they actually beat a good defense or a good opponent by throwing the football and being productive consistently in the passing game, and not just have it come and go in spurts. And maybe it's the offensive line. Maybe it has nothing to do with Mac. Maybe they don't trust the offensive line to block it, right? And keep Mac protected. And that's how you get turnovers, is when there's pressure on the quarterback. So maybe it's that. I don't know. It could be a combination of all of them. But until they go out there and do it against a team that's not the Jets. And I know the Jets have been pesky here the last couple of weeks, and they beat the Bengals a couple of weeks ago. But until you do it against a defense that's not the Jets, then you're gonna have to answer these questions, right? You're gonna have to answer these questions and these concerns about the passing game as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. What else do you think you have? What else do you want to talk about as far as this game is concerned before I make the rest of it about Odell Beckham?
Well, it was good to see the running backs be so productive, right? I mean, you run for that sort of yardage, and then you also throw the ball to the running backs out of the backfield a little bit, and you're productive there. Then I think all of those things are not necessarily translatable. I think Brandon Bolden looks good, right? I think he's looked a lot better. Is Brandon Bolden gonna be this much of a factor back every single week against every single defense? I don't know about that, but what they've been able to do with this backfield, assuming and hoping that Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris are continue to be healthy and aren't actually seriously hurt at the end of this game, they've found a nice mix of backs here, right?
Sorry. That was JC Jackson quote just now. Sorry, I got caught. Someone asked, "Can you take us through your pick six?" JC Jackson's answer was, "You can watch it on the internet."
Oh my gosh.
I love that stuff.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he is. Look, the defense balled out today, and
That's what you get, by the way, young journalists out there, aspiring journalists, when you ask a talk about question. Okay,
yeah,
talk about this. No, so walk us through that. No,
yeah,
just watch it.
yeah. I look, if I have to, this defense, I don't want to take anything away from the defense because they played great today. And you look at this pass rush, and you look at the adapting to more zone, but and specifically, I look at guys like Barmore and Matt Judon just wrecking games in that front four
Yep.
and being able to get pressure on Darnold with four guys. And as we know, Darnold is the type of quarterback that once you get him under pressure, he really does turtle at that point, right? And he coughs the ball up, he turns it over, he makes some really boneheaded bad plays against pressure. And in the past, the Patriots have run zero package blitzes at him and things like that instead, and really turned up the pressure by bringing extra rushers.
Right.
But now they're not doing that. Now they're dropping 7 into coverage. They're rushing 4, and guys like Barmore and Judon are able to win reps and get home. And that's the way that they're being more productive. I mean, they collapsed the pocket today a handful of times. I think they had 4 or 5 batted passes at the line of scrimmage from different guys just collapsing the pocket and getting in Darnold's in face. So,
but when you're out there too playing, when you're getting some pressure there, but also when you're throwing guys back in the zone and disguising coverages, and he doesn't know, a quarterback like Darnold's just going to look at it, get confused, and then leave the pocket, which he did on a few occasions as well. So that's just kind of how it goes. And again, you wish you could play a Sam Darnold like quarterback every week. But 5-4 right now. They have it. Who do we have next week? Back home against Cleveland. Cleveland, who dropped a bomb on Cincinnati today, was surprising because that team looked like they were a mess, playing without their guy, Odell, who is now a free agent. And now what happens? We don't know. He's not a free agent. He's going through waivers. But early today, Adam Schefter drops a little Schefter nugget where he says, if Odell wanted the ultimate revenge, if he wanted the ultimate revenge, that the Browns play the Patriots next week. That could be cute little, wow, wouldn't that be something sort of stuff? Yeah. Schefter doesn't tweet a lot of things by accident. So I don't know what you thought about that. To me, I was like, he might know something without being able to say something yet. And again, nothing is known because, again, Beckham has to clear waivers, but with a $7.25 million price tag attached to a half-season rental who's not under control for next year, and yes, I think you get the way the deal is structured, you would get a compensatory pick. I don't know that anyone's taken a flyer on the waiver, so he's going to get to pick his destination. What do you think of all the questions? Is he still enamored with the Patriots situation? Because I know he was before when Brady was here. I know Bill Belichick is fond of him and his talents. And I know he likes Bill Belichick also, but would he come here? Should he come here? How does this play out? So, because I think there's like a 95% chance he's going to be a Patriot, because this is always how this stuff turns out. But that's how it was when Brady was here. I don't know what the new rules are. If this were a Tom Brady Patriots team, Odell Beckham they'd be selling his jerseys at the pro shop. There's no question he'd be coming here.
Right. So, look, I said this on Friday. I've been told that there is still a lot of mutual admiration, mutual love, mutual whatever you want to call it, interest is what I called it, in playing for Bill Belichick for Odell Beckham. And I've heard that Bill Belichick thinks very highly of Odell Beckham as a player. And although you look at in Cleveland, it maybe wasn't as clean as he was kind of in his prime years there with the Giants and going for over 1,000 yards every single season. He hasn't had 1,000 yards since 19 now, but you see the talent and his skill set in particular the win inside the slot, win outside, win after the catch, win at the break point at the top of the route, get open with your route running and your explosiveness. Those are the types of things that fit well here. And then you also just add the game breaking talent that he has. So when I kind of read all the tea leaves here, I do think that there's a possibility that this could happen. And he was on his special with Cam Newton last offseason when Cam did that round table sit down thing with a bunch of his buddies. And he was talking to Cam about how great it was to watch Cam play for the Patriots last year because the Patriots had Tom Brady before Cam. And now all of a sudden they're running quarterback option plays and read option and QB designed runs. And they're trying to do things and incorporate things to make Cam Newton thrive in their offense that really wasn't built for a quarterback like Cam Newton, but they did their best from a coaching standpoint to adjust to Cam's strengths. And when I heard that, he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, that Belichick gets the best out of guys, right? He puts them in the best position to succeed. He puts them in a role that they can be productive in.
Except for Jonnu Smith and Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, fair enough. But he gets the best out of guys. And I think that Odell is going to look at it and say, there's two things that could happen out of this, right? I could either go to New England and it could become a home for me and a place that I can be a star again in, or I play really well in New England for 7 games, reset my value, and then get paid again next offseason as a true free agent in the offseason. So,
but why would he not go to a place like KC if that's the case, if resetting the value is something? Because that's a team in need of a number 2 receiver here. And obviously with a quarterback who can do a lot more than the Patriots quarterback can do. I don't see if you forget about, I understand it for 2 reasons for the Patriots. Being well coached and being in a position to be around professionals, which the Patriots are not the only organization that provides that. But as a person who feels like he wasn't used right, being somewhere where someone would use, I agree with that. They would utilize me. But to what end? What would be the ceiling for Odell's stats in New England given this passing offense? 6 targets, 4 receptions, 60 yards. There's just not a lot of the pot. There's not a lot to go around here. It's just not. I mean, you have 12 completions were thrown today. So it's just not a high-flying, high-octane offense. That's the downside. The plus side is he's not stealing targets from anyone. If he were coming to a situation where there's 2 and 3 other people that also need the ball, that could create problems. So anybody worried about Odell, the head case, I don't think it'd be a problem with that because I don't think he'd come in here and it'd be like, why – I think he'd get his share of targets. I still don't think it's enough for him.
So I don't know. I guess the way that I look at it, and maybe Mac Jones hasn't played up to this caliber over the last 2 weeks, but I still think if Odell is on this team that Mac Jones will get him the football. I'm not saying he's going to be a 10, 15 high volume target type of guy, but I still think if Odell's getting open, I think he's going to get the ball from Mac Jones, and Mac's got the ability to put it on him. So I'm not necessarily – I think that it could be pretty high, the ceiling with the offense with Odell in it. And I think maybe more importantly than just the fact that Odell's what his stats could produce and what he could go off on statistically is, let's take the Cleveland Browns next week against the Patriots. They have Odell Beckham in the lineup on Tuesday. When you go into your game plan meeting with your defensive staff, if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're saying, well, now we got to put Denzel Ward on Odell Beckham because they got Odell. So that means that Nelson Aguilar now gets the number 2, and Kendrick Bourne or Jacoby Myers gets the number 3, and Hunter Henry isn't getting a top cover guy either. So he's got an advantageous matchup, or the backs of the backfield are on linebackers.
There's no doubt about that. You could theoretically draw a top cover guy because you have to respect.
Right. So whether it's taking coverage with him, taking multiple guys with him in coverage, getting Denzel Ward or getting the top corner on the opposition every single week and clearing that out for Nelson Aguilar, that those types of things, the domino effect of Odell Beckham and just his name and his presence alone in the huddle, it just puts your offense in a much better position. Because right now, if you want to have a big picture discussion about the Patriots offense, and I think we knew this coming into the season to a degree, even with the signings, it feels like everybody is maybe up a peg of where they should actually be, right? It feels like Nelson Aguilar is a number 2, Myers is a number 3, but right now they're the Patriots 1 and 2, or boring, whatever kind of way you want to put that.
No, you're fair.
And
that's fair.
Yeah, and it feels like they don't have that number 1 guy, that true number 1 guy at the top to make everybody else fit in the pecking order in the proper way. And if they really want their passing game to be more productive, then getting that guy in there would really help. And Odell's also not the type of guy that needs to win on the deep ball, right? He's somebody that can win at the short and intermediate levels. He's somebody that can win after the catch. So you don't need to have these long drops and have Mac hold the ball for 3.5 seconds to wait for him to uncover down the field necessarily. One of his best routes his entire career is just a 3-step slant, right?
Yep,
He just right over the middle of the field and he takes it 75 yards.
Right.
Right. That's prime Odell.
And that's in the Patriots playbook.
Right.
You're
right. So I think that's something that you kind of look at and you see and you hope that he could just kind of improve the overall pecking order of the passing game. But I also kind of think in a lot of ways that Odell kind of needs the Patriots as much as the Patriots need Odell. I think Odell needs to be with the right coach. I think he needs to be in the right offense, because reportedly he had some trouble with the Kevin Stefanski playbook and the type of offense that they run. So that probably rules out a lot of the Stefanski coaching tree, right? So like Green Bay or San Francisco or some of these other teams that run the same style of scheme. So I think that there's a chance that this could happen. I really do. And I think it would be obviously great for us, but great for the Patriots offense as a whole, just from a domino effect standpoint, even if Odell is not prime Odell Beckham Jr.
I think no question about it. I think if you're the Patriots, the risk reward, it's again, we've been through this before. The risk reward on a low cost flyer signing to see what the ceiling is, even if it doesn't work out, is really not a big deal. He's not coming in here and destroying culture. He's coming in here and trying to revamp a reputation. You shoot your way out of town somewhere, you're not going into the next place and causing a big fuss, because it's just not going to work that way. So he's coming in on his best behavior, as you said, to rehabilitate his image and try to get paid once again and have some freedom. So I think he'd be a good soldier 100% here. And again, even him nowhere near the level that he was at peak Odell, 80% of him is still probably the most dynamic receiver on the Patriots by a considerable margin. So I don't even think it's a question mark. If he's interested, and if there's a wink, wink, Bill, I'm coming sort of situation going here, which is, again, my mind always runs to the conspiracies and if Schefter says it, I feel he might know something. He just can't say anything because he's not supposed to know anything, because no one's supposed to know anything. He's not officially available yet, and we don't know how this is going to go. And of course, some team could claim him. People were asking again here, don't 14 teams get a shot at him ahead of the Patriots? Yes, absolutely. But I don't think the Patriots couldn't put a claim on him anyway, because they can't fit his salary into their books right now. They can only sign Odell if he clears waivers, is a free agent, for some sort of really team-friendly deal, and they'd still have to move some money around to make it happen. So they're not putting a waiver claim on him straight up, I don't believe.
Yeah,
and I don't think I don't think any other team is either, but you never know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I tend to stray on the side of passing game production is more a product of offensive line and quarterbacks. And sometimes we get too caught up in the weapons conversation, right? Everybody wants the weapons because those are the fantasy football guys, and those are the guys that we know. And we might not have heard of the left guard on the team, but you've heard of Odell Beckham Jr., right? And I get that. But I think that there's an overall kind of confidence that a guy like that brings to the huddle. And I do think this offensive line, even though it still can have some improvements here or there, Wynn, I still think is a little bit shaky at left tackle. But the other 4 guys that they are playing in the spots that they're playing in, Onwenu right tackle and Shaq Mason at guard, and obviously Karras at left guard, those 4/5 of the line have sort of stabilized this thing as a whole.
Yep.
And I feel a lot better with the line now than we did a month ago. Now, is Wynn still not all the way there? Absolutely, but it's easy for us to sit here and say that Wynn was to blame for the Brian Burns sack. We don't actually know what Wynn's assignment was. We don't know what the protection call was. We don't know if that's on Wynn or if it's on Henry or if it's on both guys. So when you have those protection breakdowns and it's not Wynn was blocking his guy and he lost the block and Mac got sacked, it's hard to really know when you have those kind of communication call breakdowns who exactly is to blame. And like I said earlier in the show, Mac had an open receiver. He had Brandon Bolden open right in front of him, and he held the ball for too long, especially against that kind of pass rush. So it's all marries up together, and I have a tough time singling out Isaiah Wynn for the strip sack. I don't think that it was.
I'm not sure either. It didn't look like. Yeah. I tend to agree there. Before we wrap, I think a couple just loose end shout outs. I think a very good game by Donta Hightower, who I know had been a target of people, just because he has looked a step or two slower than last we saw him more than 2 seasons ago. Jamie Collins didn't play a ton, but when he did, he made 2 huge impact plays. That interception that he made, I think there's one or two humans on the planet that make that play, and he's one of them. So it's just incredible to see that level of like timing and athleticism. Brewski used to make plays like that. He was quick as a cat on that line to jump up and kind of hide and make that pick. But with Collins, I don't even think he was playing. He wasn't playing possum there. He just reacted that fast. He's that much of a freak athlete. So it's just an incredible play. So when you get those flashes from him, I think that's great. Any other odds and ends for you, Evan, before?
Hightower is an interesting one because I was actually going to write about him in my 10 things, because Bill Belichick was really effusive with his praise last week of Donta Hightower. He was asked a generic question about Hightower this season. He talked about him being a field general and all this kind of stuff. And I think what we get too caught up in all the time with Hightower is him in coverage, right? Is him in space. Again, it's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, how many linebackers in the NFL besides maybe Fred Warner and Bobby Wagner can truly guard Christian McCaffrey in space, right? I mean, the guy's unbelievable. So to try to ask him to go out there and get Christian McCaffrey covered and a zone coverage or a short zone or whatever the case may be. The one that Barmore batted the pass down at the line of scrimmage and they had McCaffrey open on the wheel route.
Also,
Hightower is dropping into like a deep flat zone at 260 pounds and then trying to take McCaffrey. So in a lot of ways, I look at that and I say, well, is that really on Hightower that they're asking him to go out there and guard Christian McCaffrey in that much green grass? I mean, they're asking for trouble with that from a coaching perspective. So when he's at his best and he had made some really good plays in the run game and he had a couple pressures as well as a pass rusher, as when he's attacking. And I thought Bill Belichick said it perfectly. Hightower is a thumper. He is not a space player. He's not a coverage linebacker. He is a thumper. And when he stands out in the run game and he stands out in the pass rush, that's when that's what Donta Hightower does best. So I always have a tough time of getting on Hightower for the coverage stuff because when he gets put into coverage and they give him difficult coverage assignments, they're asking a lot out of the guy for a guy that is a big dude that's not really known to be a super athlete. And I think that's a big reason why Jamie Collins is here to begin with, is because they can pull Bentley or they can pull Hightower off the field in some of these passing situations and put a more athletic guy on the field in Jamie Collins and still have the size at the linebacker level to take care of some other things.
Yep. So a couple interesting things there. The other interesting thing is out of nowhere here, and again, this is what makes some of those early season giveaway losses so frustrating right now, is Buffalo drops to 5-3 with a shocking loss to Jacksonville, and the Patriots are 5-4. They haven't played the Bills yet this season. And again, this is where you're going to look at Miami and you're going to look at a couple of those games where they absolutely coulda, shoulda, woulda, won. Dallas, Tampa even, and just think, oh, even one of those right now, and you'd be in a lot better place. So their margin for error is still extremely small, but obviously the needle is pointing up now after a couple of giveaways in those games where they kind of maybe sort of, should have been able to win. They've won 3 straight games now. They've got Cleveland, which again is a winnable game for sure next week back in Foxborough. So we'll see how that goes. And then after that, you're at the Falcons. And again, that's another one where, these are games that you can, and I'm not going to say should. I don't think the Patriots necessarily should beat anyone yet. These are both winnable games here. And so 5-4 now, if you're able to move to 7-4 before you take on the Titans, who are currently tied for the AFC lead, you're in the ball game. So again, they got to keep stacking these up here if they're gonna keep the momentum going.
Really quickly on the Bills, actually, though. So Buffalo, according to Football Outsiders, has one of the toughest remaining schedules in the league right now because they're playing that. Remember the first place schedule, right? You win the division and then you get all the good teams the next year. And Buffalo has a really
backloaded.
They have a pretty hard schedule coming up. They have to play the Patriots twice, as you mentioned. So the division, right? They're one game back, and it's very much in play right now. It's very much in play. I think Buffalo is the better team. I think they're more ready to compete and win division titles right now than the Patriots until Mac matures a little bit. But still, at the end of the day, 5-4 and 5-3. I mean, the Patriots are one game out of the division with 2 games to go against Buffalo and a pretty difficult schedule down the stretch here for the Bills. And you mentioned Cleveland. This is a really, really interesting game to me because the Browns can kill you in the trenches.
They can run it down your freaking throat.
And they can rush
and
on
they
the
can
other
get after
side.
it. Yeah.
Right. So the Patriots have been able to control the trenches the last 2 weeks, and that's a real big reason why they've beaten the Chargers and the Panthers. Let's see what it looks like against a team that is committed to run the football, because I still don't think the Patriots have played. I guess they played Dallas, but Dallas threw the ball a lot against the Pats in that game. They haven't played a team that has gone out there and said, we're going to run the ball 40 times today because we know we can. And even if we give up, even if we get stopped a couple of times early or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're going to keep running the football and commit themselves to run the football. And they are going to go up against that in Cleveland next week. And Cleveland can really take advantage of some of the things on the offensive line that the Patriots have still had issues with. So it's going to be a really good game, a really good litmus test for the Patriots in the trenches. Has this run defense that's been much, much better this year really taken a next step, right? Can they go ahead and stop Nick Chubb in one of the best rushing attacks in the league? And obviously, can they block Myles Garrett and company too? So a trenches game next week for sure.
Yep. Last couple of odds and ends here. Jamie Collins, we talked about that interception, and it didn't look like he was sitting back in coverage. He was asked about it. He was, in fact, rushing the passer on that interception.
Yeah, just instincts. Yeah.
And someone asked him, how'd you do it? And he said, I don't know how I do stuff. I just do it. So that's in running for the best quote of the day next to JC Jackson's.
He's actually responded to my football nerd questions like that before. I think sometimes when you're such a freaky athlete like Jamie Collins is, it's difficult to put into words how you do things, right?
Yeah.
Your body's
just used to doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
then you can count on doing freaky things, so you approach things differently. If you know you're a ninja, you can rely on your ninja skills when you're in certain situations. And Collins is very much like that.
Yeah. He's a freaky athlete for sure.
He's a freaky athlete. So, again, as Evan mentioned, check out clnsmedia.com, our new revamped website. Evan will have a write-up there momentarily on today's game, as well as, all our other post-game coverage, in addition to all of our Celtics coverage, our Celtics post-game, stuff from Bobby Manning. I know he just posted something to the site recently about Marcus Smart and what's going on behind the scenes there. It's a pretty interesting read. And then, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Patriots Press Pass. Follow us on Twitter, Patriots CLNS, to be notified for all of our updates when we go live. We're back with Patriots Beat Live on Tuesday, but we'll have a ton more stuff popping out on the YouTube channel and our CLNS Media website throughout the evening and into tomorrow as well. So lots of new stuff. And then check out Evan. He's going to have his film review and film study coming up as well, which is a must read, must watch situation. So that's it for us, Evan. Thank you. Congratulations to Evan Lazar's sister, who was married this weekend. That's very nice.
Mr. and Mrs. Putney finally got them hitched. They had to postpone their wedding because of COVID the first time. So 2.5 years after the engagement, we finally did the thing last night. So it was great.
That's excellent. So congratulations there. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will talk to you guys later.